Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I would call you yesterday XRP Yield Day. They might need to declare it a holiday. There were yield announcements coming from every direction yesterday. The financial products are rolling out. This one right here, Axelar Network, they went live either yesterday or in the last 48 hours or so, I think. Then they came out and said the MXRP vault has reached capacity. So I guess they can only do so much per day or something like that. That doesn't surprise me. The success of, people have been waiting for XRP yield for over a decade, folks, and been watching the infinite supply Ethereum get yield while we've been sitting here staring at our XRP. Then you had this from Flare for over a decade. XRP's powered last efficient settlement at scale. FXRP on Flare extends that strength with composability, opening new growth opportunities. XRP's collateral, liquidity, yield, and DeFi. And then Hugo Filion, the CEO of Flare, said 5 million XRP in 4 hours. So all of these things. And then Uphold came out and piggybacked off of that and said earning yield on XRP has been one of the most requested features on Uphold. They're making steady progress, and now there's several promising ways to deliver it, more to come. Then we had Onyx come out. XRP yield is now on Onyx. Ledger with 10% passive Onyx point allocation and more DeFi opportunities soon. Bridge your Coinbase wrapped XRP from Base to Onyx today. Now, folks, I keep telling you, I'm not saying anything bad about any of these, and all these are probably great. But, and in my opinion, here's the way you look at this. Now, I've been here a long time. I've seen a lot of things come and go. I am not risking my XRP with any of these things. The way I've always thought about it is, when a new iPhone comes out or any new product, I like to sit back and watch all the bugs happen before, especially when it comes to investing. But I like to sit back and watch all the bugs and watch it for a while, and then if I'm going to choose one, understand all the risks and all that different stuff. And that's how I see XRP yield, XRP lending, until I have an understanding, or loaning my XRP or putting my XRP in some fund or whatever. I want to really sit back, and I want to see some people that have been around for a long time that have a lot to lose and a lot of reputation to lose and a lot of money to lose if they lose my XRP. And so I'm sitting back watching. In the meantime, I'm focused. I keep showing you I'm partnered with iTrustCapital, have been for a long time. I've gotten my XRP safely in institutional custody with iTrustCapital. And that's what I'm doing now. iTrustCapital just started yield on Solana. I have a feeling they'll be announcing other yield products with other digital assets. Hopefully XRP is one of them. Cross your fingers. So that's kind of, a lot of these companies that have been around iTrustCapital has been around since maybe 2018. And I've had my stuff safely there ever since then in an IRA. Now I've got it in the premium custody account. So if you're thinking like I am, go to iTrustCapital.com/XRP Army, and you can go and open an IRA or a premium custody account and get a $100 funding bonus with the promo code on my page here. All right, we've got the market has pulled back a decent amount. Bitcoin 111,000, XRP 283. This looks like the moment that the digital asset investor might dive in and scoop up a big old bag. Here's what Raoul Pal says about the cycle we're in.
Why is Bitcoin sort of not wildly off to the races yet? And it's this chart. Bitcoin is basically, this is a detrended Bitcoin. And it's basically the ISM, which is the business cycle. Remember, we've always said it's the business cycle stupid. It is always the business cycle stupid. And all of these people who claim it's the 4-year cycle based around this and that, they don't understand the fundamental of what the business cycle is, why there's a 4-year cycle in everything. And we've explained it. We'll go through it in great detail tomorrow in our Everything Code presentation. But basically, it's following the ISM. And rates have been following the same pattern. You see, rates should have come lower. They need to come lower because we need to roll the debt. We've talked about this. That's part of the Everything Code, fundamental part. And ISM, because rates are so high, has meant that Main Street has been screwed while Wall Street's made money from debasement. Earnings versus scarce assets. This is the issue that they need to solve, and they need to get rates lower. They get rates lower. Why? Why do we have an elongated business cycle that looks like virtually no other real other time? It's because, and I only just found this out redoing the work on the Everything Code recently, is that in 2021-22, they actually extended the maturity of the debt from 4 years to 5 years. So that extension of the maturity of debt has pushed out the business cycle a year. The 4-year cycle this time around is a 5-year cycle. We don't know what the next one will be until we see where they all end up getting refinanced. Whether it comes back to 4 because they managed to get some stuff at the long end, or whether they shorten it because everything's in the short end. We don't know yet. But this one is a 5-year cycle. And this is what it looks like. A 5.4-year sine curve. 5.4 years is the exact average weighted maturity of the debt. And it tells us the ISM should peak by 2026. We think liquidity probably peaks before that, as the rate of change of ISM changes and the rate of change of liquidity changes. Our best guess remains well into 2026.
Okay, I'm thinking the same way he's thinking. Now, we talk about the XRP supply all the time. While you're watching this, I want you to think, they're using bananas as an example to talk about supply and demand in economics. I want you to think about imagining that there are only 100 billion bananas in the world, and 35 billion of them are locked in escrow, and they're destroyed, and bananas are destroyed on every banana transaction. A limited amount of bananas available for retail to purchase, and the world is on the precipice of a massive banana revolution where demand will skyrocket. You don't have to have to go to MIT to know what's going to happen.
Let's assume you live in a small town where nobody sells bananas. In other words, zero supply. Now, let's also assume that the people who live there would love to eat bananas. In other words, there's a decent demand for bananas. As we can see, there's currently an imbalance. People want bananas, but there are no sellers. Peter understands this and starts selling bananas. At the beginning, his profits will be huge because lots of people want bananas and he's the only one who has them. As time passes, however, Sarah will notice how well Peter is doing and start selling bananas herself. This increases the supply of bananas and diminishes Peter's profit potential. The more people start selling bananas, the more supply there will be. If too many people end up selling bananas, but the demand doesn't increase as well, there will be too much supply and some of them will go out of business. Eventually, some kind of a balance tends to be reached.
There is relatively speaking, leaving forks aside, there's relatively speaking fixed supply, and you have increasing demand. And when endowments and institutions, Joey and I sat in a meeting not that long ago with, some of the largest institutional money in the world trying to get smart about crypto. They owned zero on that day. I don't know if they do today. But as they enter the market, you have fixed supply, increasing demand. You don't have to go to MIT to know what's going to happen.
That's correct. Now, State Street, one of the largest custodians in the world, is going to be at Ripple Swell 2025. Let me remind you what State Street said back in, when did I tweet this? 2021? This was their head of digital assets at the time. The volume may be low on this one.
Talking about intellectual properties, paintings, other things like crypto kitties, right? People have heard of crypto kitties. So we're seeing assets start to become digitized, trickle, and then we believe there'll be a flood. When that happens, I would look at a historic precedent. If you think about 30 years ago when assets moved from materialization to dematerialization, when we moved from coupon clipping to stock certificates to electronification. We believe the same thing will happen with digital assets. Talking about intellectual properties, paintings, other things like crypto kitties, right? People have heard of crypto kitties. So we're seeing assets start to become digitized, trickle, and then we believe there'll be a flood. When that happens, I would look at a historic precedent. If you think about 30 years ago when assets moved from materialization to dematerialization, where we moved from coupon clipping to stock certificates to electronification. We believe the same thing will happen with digital assets. Talking about.
Yes, it will. Eleanor Terrett, Senate Finance Committee has just announced a hearing next Wednesday, October 1st, 10 a.m. to talk about crypto taxes, folks. This right here could be, look, if they do anything that makes taxes favorable to digital assets, it is on like Donkey Kong. This would send shockwaves in a good way across the crypto markets. Now, here they're talking about the market structure.
Market structure is essential. This is what we've fought so long and hard for. It's the foundation of everything you just talked about. I do think there's some misconceptions in the world when you have these misleading headlines sometimes where I think people actually think that we don't want any type of regulation. No, in fact, we're asking for regulation. We're asking for uniform rules for consumers and for innovators and for investors. And we want Americans to have a safe on-ramp to digital assets. Momentum, I think, is very real on both sides. I think we have to remember that Clarity passed the House 294 to 134, including 78 Democrats. And the White House absolutely wants this to pass in 2025. So when I think about the stablecoin bill and the market structure bill, I think they're two sides of the same coin. Genius established the rulebook for stablecoins, and then market structure completes the framework for the rest of the ecosystem. So we are very, very, very urgently seeking for this to be passed. We think that we have great bipartisan momentum, and I think it's an incredibly important thing to happen, not only for crypto, but just for financial services and for consumers in the U.S.
It's going to pass because it's national economic security, folks. And here is, she's talking about Bitcoin being leapfrogged in terms of regulatory clarity. I think the entire industry is about to leapfrog Bitcoin.
We were in Washington last week, myself and a delegation with the Digital Chamber, including Michael Saylor and Tom Lee and lots of people that are really important to the ecosystem. And that thread came up a few times over the course of the day that Bitcoin predates stablecoins, and yet we've got the Genius Act through, and we're still very much in conversation around Clarity and the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. So yeah, I think there is a little bit of jealousy that stablecoins have kind of leapfrog Bitcoin, and we're still fighting a lot of battles in the Bitcoin world that we've been fighting for years. When we think about the narrative that still comes at us about Bitcoin being used for illicit purposes. I can't believe that argument is one I still have to deal with on a daily basis, but it's true. And stablecoins have managed to just kind of avoid a lot of that entirely, and now they have proper regulatory clarity, which we do desperately need in the United States and Canada for the rest of the ecosystem.
Okay, we're going to go into DAIXRP.com, and today we're going to talk about a lot of conspiracy, and you know how conspiracies are. They actually most of the time turn out to be the truth. But I created this private group to talk about things. When I got kicked off of X, I've been shadow banned by you know who for years, since ETHgate. But I created this group to be able to talk about things that I'm not allowed to talk about out here. And I'm going to talk about at least 2 or 3 of them in there, that some of it ties with all this. I think we're living through an awakening right now. I think we've been lied to about a lot of things. And I'm going to show you some of those and show you some of the stuff that's coming out. You're not going to want to miss it. Go to DAIXRP.com to join the Patreon. If you'd rather join through YouTube, click join below any of these YouTube videos. If you'd rather join through X, hit subscribe. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends and family. Away we go.